ladies and gentlemen, to the Horses Now podcast, your go-to source for everything in the world of horse racing. I'm your host, T. Ridge. As always, I'm joined in studio today by Mr. Kenny McPeek. Kenny, what's happening, my man?
Oh, good time to be in Kentucky, fall racing at Churchill, so
yeah,
keeping me home a little bit.
Yeah, so one of the topics today, I plan on taking my family out to the track on Thanksgiving, and for someone who maybe only frequents the track every so often, right? Somebody that just goes on some of the major holidays, or whether it be derbies or whatever it may be, the stake races. What I'd like to get into a little bit today, Kenny, is how to approach betting as a complete novice like myself. Now, you've said in the past, you're not a handicapper, you're a trainer. You don't bet a whole lot, but I think you could probably shed some light on some things. We're going to look at a past performance racing form, as well as some other things before we get into it. And what I want you to do is to kind of just give us a deep dive of what some novices like myself should be looking for when we're out at the track, putting a couple dollars down on the horses. Before we get into that, Kenny, what do you think someone like me, what type of strategies should I start with? How can I minimize my risk and kind of maximize my enjoyment when betting on horse racing?
Well, to clarify, first of all, I do know how to handicap, and I can handicap well, but when I approach a race, I'm not approaching it from a gambler's point of view.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, and that's kind of right.
But so,
makes sense.
So yes, we do look at the past performances. We do try to figure out who the pace of the race is,
okay,
who the closers are.
Well, you're handicapping a little bit as you're putting horses in, I guess, right?
Well, we're trying to get a horse into consistent running style.
Okay.
And when we adjust from sprint distances to route distances, and one of the horses I think we're going to look at on these PPs is going from a sprint to a one-turn mile to a mile and a 16th.
Okay.
And so all those are things that you need to take into account when you're handicapping a race. So, yeah, this will be fun because I think there are people out there that know very well how to do this, and I think there are those that don't.
Right.
This show might very well point to more people that don't know how to handicap, or at least don't know how to read the past performances, and there are a multitude of different types of past performances.
Yep.
So we're just going to focus in on one today,
yeah,
and then we'll try to explain some other ones as we go.
Awesome. I love it, Kenny. So what we're going to do now, if you're listening and you're not watching, you might want to find this particular episode on YouTube. You can find it on the Horses Now channel. I should mention this too, Kenny, because I've dove into it the last couple weeks. The Horses Now app is awesome. There's so many cool things you can do with that app. If you don't have this app yet, you really, really should. What I've done is I've gone in and I've followed you as a trainer. I followed Brian Hernandez, and I followed Colby as jockeys. Mm-hmm. And so I get these cool little alerts anytime these horses are entered. Or even at post time, I get the bugle call, the post time call. It's so cool. And really, for me, I'm able to follow the people, the jockeys, the horses, the trainers that I care about, that I want to kind of see what they're doing. It's a really cool app.
It makes it a little more personal.
It does, right?
Yeah. And when you can pick, you can pick a jockey at any track in America, actually in the world.
Okay.
Any track, any horse, any trainer, any jockey. So, and owners are also in there too. So if you want to follow owners,
there you go.
And that's one of the reasons why we built it. We actually modeled it after the ESPN Score Center app.
Okay.
Where you can follow whether it's the Kentucky Wildcats,
yep,
Louisville Cardinals,
right,
or whomever. Truth is, probably ought to go dig dive. ESPN probably ought to go into high school football teams.
Yeah, they really should.
But that's a whole nother level. But yeah, we really felt like horse racing needed a way to connect to the masses, or to everyone. There's a lot of people out there to utilize it for exactly what you do.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. And if you haven't, again, if you don't have the app, I highly encourage you to download it, because it's really, really, really cool. And it really dumbs things down a little bit for somebody like me. You can go through the whole pedigree piece. You can really, really get extremely detailed. And actually, one of the comments on one of our latest episodes, someone said, as a experienced handicapper, you guys are making this too easy for the regular folks, right? There's too much information that I only used to be able to find. Now everybody can find it. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty interesting, because you can really, really get deep and dirty with it.
Well, and one of the things that reluctantly we have to add is the advertising. And I apologize for that. But however, that keeps our lights on, because we can't we can't source all that data and code writers, and we actually lose money every month. However, the advertising helps offset some of that, but not all of it. But the ads, you just got to wait for them to click out of them, and then you can roll on through.
Or you can pay to not have ads.
Well, you can subscribe out of the ads, and that helps us. That helps our cause, and it keeps us going. And it's
minimal. It's not expensive.
I think we make $7 a month if you opt out of the ads, so that at least helps cover some of our costs.
Yeah,
but we're trying hard.
All right, so let's jump into one of these past performances. And what I'm going to do, listeners, I'm going to take I have a laptop in front of me. I'm going to take a screen, and I'm going to put it in front of Kenny, and Kenny's going to break this down for us. So 1 second here.
So as a handicapper or as even a novice, the first thing you need to do is you need to read the conditions line. So for example, we see the number 3, 1 1/16 of a mile. Maiden 92,000, and then you come across maiden 2-year-olds, and you want to read these fine prints because this is important for horses that have sold or RNA'd for 50,000 or less at their most recent auction. So what this is a kind of a restricted maiden race where you're able to some horses that are bought for less money at auction have the opportunity to race against horses that brought lesser money. In other words, that way $1 million yearling doesn't have to compete against a horse that sold for 40,000 or 10.
Interesting. Is that common, Kenny?
This is kind of a new racing condition. I think it's pretty brilliant on the part of racing secretaries to add something unique like this because it does kind of level the playing field. Interestingly enough, Torpedo Anna broke her maiden in one of these races.
Okay.
Swiss Skydiver won her maiden in one of these races. So these are good for the sport. I think it gives a trainer that doesn't have a huge budget the ability to win a maiden special weight and then find out how good their horse is. And these races tend to be, the word will be filling, so they're having enough horses to actually run these races. So it's a unique approach.
So Kenny, we found this on your website at McPeekracing.com, and this is a Brisnet. Walk me through this top part here. So if I'm looking at speed last race, prime power, class rating, what's all that mean?
Well, because these horses haven't run a lot, these numbers wouldn't be as important. When you've got a group of horses that have run 10, 15 times, then their average speed and their class rating and such like that would be probably more important. Speed at the distance, as you can see, only one horse in the whole race is run at 1 mile and 16.
Okay. And
then last race speed could be important. Cole Moon got the last race speed figure, and this is Brisnet, and this is a past performance. We're going to use we're going to shorten it to PPs, but that means past performances, and there are different types of past performances. There are Equibase, there are Brisnet, you have Daily Racing Form. You have other companies out there that create their own past performances. You also have the Ragozin sheets, Thorograph.
Yep.
And you're able to take these tools to help you handicap a race and perhaps pick a winner. And a lot of people out there like the analytical side or to be able to analyze the race and then figure out who's going to win it on paper is unique, and that's a talent. There are people that are excellent at this. From a horseman's viewpoint, I don't put as much weight into it as much as I want to see a horse's consistent races and that they are progressing. And you want to see their numbers climb as they go. And I think if you scroll to Lured Away, I can give you a little example of
now this is one of yours.
Correct. And so let's go down to, so you see Lured Away, and then go to the race type. As you scroll over just a little bit to the right, one of them is maiden 79,000. So that was an auction maiden race at Keeneland. And as you can see, he ran a 67 speed rating.
Okay.
And then I came back and I ran him about 3 weeks later. I ran him for maiden 100,000. But go to distance over here on the left side where it says 6 furlongs on October 18th. He went 6 furlongs. And November 9th, he ran a mile. Now today he's running a mile and a 16th. So I'm actually stretching him out in distance, and we think he's going to like that. However, if you go back over to the speed figure, his speed figure was 67. Then he ran a 77. Now his third start today, we're hoping he runs an 87 or an 85, or we want to see an improvement off his first two races. And we think that the mile and a 16th is going to make the difference. So when you're handicapping these races, you want to see what I'd say a progression pattern, and all trainers are different. Some trainers are very good first time out. They win early. Their horses run really well out of the box. Other trainers progress. I'm one of those that kind of progresses. I like to say that my horses are 80% first time, maybe 90 the second, 100 the third. So so it's all different angles. So scroll back up to the favorite, number one.
Okay.
So this is a horse that I think, okay, so he ran a flat mile at Ellis on the turf. Ran good. And I'm going over here to the left side where we go to August, September, October. So he's run 3 times on the grass, and then they came back in another auction maiden race going a mile, and he ran second. But his speed figures have continually climbed. And like from my perspective, looking at this horse on paper, I'm hopeful that my horse increases his speed number to the 87, and that the favorite Cold Moon maybe even maintains or regresses a little bit. So how will he handle a mile and a 16th? How will my horse handle the stretch out? So this is the kind of things that you need to look at.
So, Kenny, when you say the speed figures climbed, and I just got a few questions here. So, in August, the favorite there ran a 74, right? And then it ran a 71, then a 67, then an 87. So it went down a couple times, and then all the way up to an 87. Is that what I'm seeing?
Well, read the comment lines over on the right corner. So the comment, first race, inside trip moved up. Second race, 2 to 3, I'm not sure the P, but 4 wide quarter pole rallied inside.
Okay.
So it sounds to me like he had kind of what I'd call a wiggly trip. He was outside. He had to go inside.
Got it.
He rallied up the rail. The third start of his career, October 4th at Keeneland, read the comment line, broke out, steadied, checked 7/8.
Okay.
So that means he had a troubled trip. So that's a race you'd probably run a line through.
So you would take that out.
Yeah, and so as a handicapper, and you want to probably watch this race. Like for good handicappers, would have noticed that comment, and then would have played him at 5-1 when he ran second on the 27th of October.
Got it.
So his odds actually went down because he had a troubled trip. And so these are the kind of details that are constant. And this is very artistic. A lot of these things you've got to see and pay attention to. If you go to the 2-horse, this is another one, didn't run well at all first time out, comes back and runs a lot better second time out at a mile and a 16th. But his number, 62, won't compete against the 1-horse, it looks like. And if you go back to the race type, he dropped for maiden 50. Well, he ran maiden September 18th. He ran for the auction maiden. He came back for maiden claiming 50. Now he's actually raising back up.
Okay.
So that could be, and that's where the conditions of the race, and when you read in the conditions. Now, you would normally run this horse back for maiden 50, but I don't think the maiden 50 filled. So that horse might not have had an option. If they dropped a maiden 30 off a second for 50, they might get claimed. So they think enough of the horse to give him another chance. And like I said, every race has these kind of things. Let's keep scrolling, see if we see anything interesting we can explain.
So how much does the hot jockey in the last 7 days mean?
Well, it's important. For example, Tyler Gaffleone's leading rider at Churchill. He's having a great season. He has for pretty steady for several years now and is doing well here. Al Stahl is having a good meet. But that's not always the most important thing. I mean, you got to go by horse. And you really need to. I mean, those horses will tend to be overbet when a jockey is top leading rider tends to get overbet. Pat Day historically was overweight.
Oh yeah.
You couldn't cash a ticket on him. You're looking for the value to try to cash a ticket. But yeah, but certainly when they're having a good meet, it doesn't hurt. And the odds on that horse are probably going to be pretty short. I'd say South Bend Tom might even go off the favorite if he improves from his first to his second race and handles the stretch out, which he should.
What does blinkers off mean?
Well, first time out. If you go across the race line back over here to South Bend Tom, November 1st, and you run all the way over, you see where the jockey's name says Jay Graham?
Yep.
Has a B next to it.
Okay.
That's a blinker. Wore blinkers first time out. Went off 15.25 first time out. This horse McAfee that beat him is considered a very good horse. This is Torpedo Anna's half brother.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So that's considered. And he just threw a bullet work in a couple of days ago. So there's an expectation he's going to run back well. I think he's back in the entries already. And then something we haven't talked about much yet is the workout patterns. So if you go, let's see which one we should use. South Bend Tom. So he ran on November 1st. He had a work back on 12 days later, Churchill, 48-3. That's a nice solid work. The expectation is this horse is going to run well. He had a good half-mile work pattern going into his first race. Just off a quick count, he had 6 half-mile breezes going into his first race. 48-1 from the gate. Good move. And then we'll kick on down to Dale Roman's horse, Gala de Fuego. So July didn't run any good, maiden 50. August hit the board, ran 4th. Big improvement. They come back in a maiden 100 on the grass, nowhere. October 5th, come back 30 days later or a month later, runs 3rd for maiden 50. And then
where can you see where they placed here, Kenny? I'm missing that.
Well, the finish. Okay, so if you crawl over to the line next to the
so where it says 5, 2, 6, 4. Oh, okay.
So let's run through that line too. So you see the speed figures. You have the post position right to the right of the speed figures.
Got it.
And then you have the start, then the first call, second call, stretch call, finish.
Got it.
So this is as the race progressed, and I guess the best line would be to use the Keeneland race on October 5th. Early in the race, he was 8th, 7 3/4 off the pace. Moved up to 5th by 6.
Yep.
5th by 4. Finished 3rd by 6.
Okay.
And so he made some progression. In the race at Ellis, went from 11th to 4th. So he's kind of showing like he's a pretty consistent closer. But look at the distances on these races. So you also have to adjust into that. He ran 6 furlongs, 7 furlongs, a mile. Then he backed down to 6 again, probably because he couldn't find a maiden 50,000 going longer. And then went back up to a mile for 100. In other words, that's what MC 100,000 means.
Got it.
MC 50,000 means 50,000 claiming. So you're trying to adjust to find the level and where a horse fits.
Man, this is fascinating, Kenny. This all looked like Chinese to me before you started breaking this down. So it's starting to make sense to me now.
So let's go back up to the top. Let's go to Lured Away.
Yep.
So keep scrolling.
There we go.
So Lured Away is a 2-year-old colt, foaled in May. Phasic tipped in October, $30,000 yearling. That makes him eligible for this race.
Got it.
He's a son of, the sire is Enticed, who's by my
How much do we care about the sire and the dam?
Well, you don't need to care a lot, but I think that, like for example, on the 6th horse, Maximum Mischief was a $25,000 stud fee, but the horse only sold for $20,000.
Okay.
So that's kind of a tip off that maybe that wasn't a very attractive horse at auction for somebody, or it may have had a vet exam issue. But then you've got the dam, and like Skindy on Lured Away is by Skip Away, so that is the broodmare sire.
Got it.
And The breeder, interestingly enough, is the University of Kentucky because they have a breeding program there.
Okay.
And they actually sell those foals as weanlings and yearlings.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then
so what's the prime power right there up at the 113.7?
That's a figure that Bristnet comes up with that will we'll scroll down to the bottom and you'll see a list of these. Keep going.
Oh,
keep going. There you go. No, back down a little bit. Keep going down.
I got you.
Okay. So these are the quality of races. So if you see speed last race, back speed, current class, average class last 3, prime power, early pace, late pace. Prime power would dictate the quality of the horses that they've been running against.
Okay.
So Cole Moon's been running against a little higher quality than everybody. But prime power is not really that big a deal when you're dealing with young horses at this stage because they haven't had enough starts under their belt to get a consistent number. Most of these horses have run less than 5 times for sure. And then, like, for example, South Bend Tom, well, the current class, you're not even getting a listing on 3 of the horses in the race.
Right.
The last race speed, you've got numbers on everybody. What you're trying to do, actually, the speed last race is probably the one that I would spend more time focusing in on because you want to see a horse that you think can move forward. So you really would want to handicap this race analyzing who you think's going to move forward. And if you'll notice, the odds board nearly reflects the speed last race, with the exception of South Bend Tom.
Yeah, so Cole Moon's favored. Gallo de Fuego is second, and then Lured Away's third.
Correct. And the other thing, like, I'm actually probably a bigger fan of the DRF PPs. Nothing against these PPs. I can utilize them to get basics. But if I'm really digging in, the past performances that I use are the DRF past performances and probably the Ragozins Thorograph numbers because those are more consistent, especially with, they take into account, the Thorograph Ragozins take into account the trip, whether a horse went wide in a race, whether they got a rail trip. You'll get a lower number in the Ragozins with a horse that had a wide trip and a horse got an inside trip. They would make the horse on the outside maybe the better horse because it covered more ground. And another really useful tool is what they call the Trackus, where you can track how much actual ground. It's a GPS system where they track how much ground that horse covered in the race compared to the rest of the horses. I think that's a really, really good tool, and it's but it's not something that that everybody can access.
Kenny, why is Corey on Lured Away today and not Brian? Looks like Brian's running the favorite.
Well, because we didn't have a call, and I decided to go in at the last minute. Lured Away, they needed a horse to fill the race, and the race was a short field. Lured Away was doing good. We typically would have breezed that horse this weekend.
Okay.
But as you can see, he's coming back from November 9th to the 20th, so it's 11 days. And I would have worked him otherwise, and I decided, you know what, why not? There's 92,000 reasons to run, and when the Churchill meet's over, we'll have to send him somewhere south, and why not run here?
So running him within an 11-day span isn't harmful to the horse?
Well, these young horses don't run on Lasix at this stage in their career. And I think you can run horses back quicker on Lasix. And this is a colt that never misses a meal, and he likes his work every day and really felt like it wasn't going to harm him at all to run back. Some trainers really like to space their races, big distances, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. I've probably been one more inclined to run as opposed to sit and wait. So it's once again, it's about a trainer's style. And when you're handicapping a race, you want to look at that kind of thing.
So there's a big bullet point here. It says beaten by weaker in last race.
Mm-hmm.
Walk us through that.
Okay, so you could go to Dale's horse. I think it's
Which one was that?
The 4.
Okay.
So he beat us last time out, and this was his 5th start. And my colt, I think, just really coming around. But the fact that he beat us, and I guess on the prime power or the speed figures, they consider I guess the program considered weaker. Well, they also gave the same bullet point to Gallo de Fuego also.
Yep, they sure did.
Yeah. So, for whatever reason, this is probably a computer program that puts all this together, and it's analyzed that way. The Daily Racing Forum has something called the speed rating and the variant. And that's a tool that I really like using more than I do anything, because the speed rating variant tells you how fast the racetrack played that day. And if the racetrack was playing fast and you got a big number, or if it was playing slow, then it tell you whether the horse wants a little slower surface or faster surface. So as you watch the races that day, you want to pay attention to how the races are playing. If it's extremely fast that day, then you might want to play a horse that ran well over a low variant, or ran poorly on a low variant. So it just really depends. And so much of this is artistic. I mean, this is a kind of field that I would go to the paddock and I would sit there and look at them all. And I would say, who's the biggest, strongest, shiniest one? Because you're going to see a horse's color. You're going to see a horse's presence, their energy. So I'd say this is important, and there will be horses you're going to be able to eliminate just on their physical. That maybe that horse is a little quiet today. Maybe that horse is not very big and strong. Maybe another horse just has a lot more presence and energy. So that's really a better way to handicap. Use this, but don't always bank on it. These are just numbers. You're really still wanting to go look at the horse flesh. And then going back to the pedigree and the broodmare sire. When I was young, I learned who the sire was, the broodmare sire was, and then being able to look at a horse and start saying, well, does that horse look like a hard spun, or does it look like a lemon drop kid? And like, for example, Lured Away's out of a skip away mare.
Yep.
So I know that when I bought him, I said Medagliadoro out of a skip away mare, 2 very, very good horses.
Sure.
And he had a lot of size and substance. For that matter, you watch this race today, you're going to see a big, strong horse of mine come in the paddock. Is he fast? He's got to prove it this afternoon. But that you're going to want to go see that. Matter of fact, I think he's playable.
You think he's playable today?
I think he's very playable, yes.
All right.
He's going to like the mile and a 16th. He's going to want a little pace in front of him. So here's the other thing. Let's scroll back to number 1.
Okay.
And then now we're going to scroll down as we go. Who is the speed of the race? And this is one of the first things that I'll ever look at. So you want to look at not the speed figure, but the post position, the start, the first call, second call. You want to look at those 3 numbers. So how did he start? Where was he first call? Where was he second call? So in this case on Coal Moon, started 9th, started 11th, started 8th, started 10th. This horse does not break well.
Yep. That's obvious.
You don't have to worry about him being the speed of the race. So let's go to number 2. Number 2, from post position 7 and post position 6, he started second.
So he does break well.
This horse is probably the speed of the race. Okay, so you go down to number 3. Post position 11, started 6th, first call 7th. Might have been because he was on the outside and the jockey had to be patient because he was in the 11 hole. Okay. You're trying to visualize all this. So go down to Dale's horse, Gallo de Fuego. Post position 1, 5th. He showed a little speed in his last race. And they went 46-3, and the first call he was 4th by a length and a half. So he's got some necessary speed, but he didn't show it in his first 4 starts.
Sure didn't.
Okay, so go to my colt.
Okay.
So post position 3 and 9, he started 8th and 8th. He was 8th and 9th early, and he is, looking at him, he's a big grinder.
And he's a closer.
He's not a speed horse. Baby Mix, post position 6, started 10th, and then finished 4th. Now, that's a horse. Let's see. 12-1. Didn't run terrible to finish fourth. He came flying late. All right, so that's a good sign. He's going to probably like to stretch out. And, that's a horse you might want to pay attention to. 18th of October. So this trainer has came back in 8 days and breezed on 26th. That's pretty aggressive.
That is a real aggressive.
No, not really. We can work back in 5 days. We used to work back in 3, 4. I mean,
okay.
Trainers used to breeze horses every Wednesday and Saturday, need it or not, back in the 50s and 60s. October 26th, came back on the 3rd, missed a workout. So we haven't seen a breeze out of this horse since the 3rd of November. And sometimes the clockers miss them.
Okay.
But there's one that you might be a little head scratching, like, I wonder what that horse did between the 3rd of November and the 20th of November. So normally that horse would have breezed back on the 9th, maybe the 15th, to run on the 20th, but no workouts are showing up. Hard to say. Helen's horse, Helen Pitts, one of my former assistants, fine young lady. The Fasig-Tipton July yearling, post position 1, broke 9th. First call 6th, actually backed up 6 by 10. So that's one. Let's see the work pattern on that one. Ran on the 1st of November, came back in 12 days. Nice breeze. That's a minute and 3/5. That's a nice work. That horse might be improving too. That's why you go look at them.
Interesting.
Yeah, get an idea of what you're looking at there. So now go over to the comment chart. And these are all things that you want to take into account. And with 30 minutes in between races, you got to kind of dig in.
There's a lot.
Read
Sure.
all this stuff. Let's see, on November 1st, the comments. I don't know if that's checked inside or chose inside.
It does, yeah.
I'm not sure what the comment, let's see. 3PUPR, bumped 8th pole. Okay, so I might have a trebled trip here. Actually, I'm not sure what all these initials stand for, but it sounds like the horse had a little bit of a troubled trip. But I would think this horse is going to improve. Helen worked for me for years, developed horses like Curlin and Einstein, and I would suspect that this horse will get better as it goes. And we've got she's got a couple of minute breezes on the page, so this horse looks like it's got a little bit of talent.
All right, so we've broken this down pretty well. What is a smart play for a bettor today?
Well, I think there's some horses you could probably eliminate. I think Cole Moon definitely needs to be one of the favorites if he runs back to that same number. The 2 horse is probably going to get played because of Luis Saez, but the fact that he went from maiden 50 to raise up, beaten maiden 50 to raise up, I think it'd be a horse I'd play against. And the mile and a 16th and 148.3 is relatively slow. South Bend Tom, scroll for me a little bit. I think that horse is going to improve quite a bit off his first race. That's probably the horse if I weren't betting on my own, I'd bet on that one. Dale's horse is pretty much a proven commodity, and that he's he's had 5 starts and this is his 6th. To see him move forward is going to be a bit of a, let's see. I think he's going to need to win the race. My horse is going to need to move forward to be able to beat him. Baby Max, that's one that showed a nice finish stretching out. I still wouldn't bet this race without going to the paddock and looking at him.
Right. What you said shiny. What does shiny tell you?
Well, you want to see a horse that's dappled out, that his coat looks healthy, that has a glow to it. Some horses come to the paddock, they lack energy, their coats look dull, they don't show signs of wanting to be there. Other horses are happy to be there that have, like I said, a certain presence about them. And that's part of being a horse person is learning and gathering that instinct. And it comes from looking and watching, and how a horse moves through itself is important. this is a 1.16 mile race. You don't want to see a short horse with short legs that maybe doesn't have much reach to it. You want to see a horse with a little length, like I said, energy. This is a tricky race to bet because a lot can happen. I think Kelsey Danner's horse can improve. I think Helen Pitts' horse can improve. I expect mine to improve. Crawling back up towards the top. I think between Dale and my horse, both of them need to move forward, and I think my horse definitely needs to step forward. South Bend Tom's going to improve.
Kenny, you just made the case to bet on all of them.
Well, look, I mean, like I said, you need to go look at them. This is a tricky race to bet because they're all in many ways unknown quantities because only one horse in the whole field has run this distance.
Yeah. All right. So for somebody that might just be out at the track, just a complete novice, do you encourage to stay away from the exotics? I mean, obviously that's where you make money, but those are a little bit harder to pick. I know that I've heard you say in the past that, especially when it's one of your horses, putting kind of win, place, and show makes a lot of sense. What's the smart bet?
Well, if you're just beginning to play the sport, I really think people should stick to the win, place, show ticket. You don't need to get fancy and throw money at exactas and trifectas, and all those are quite complicated. They're very difficult to pick. The pros are better at that than others. But if you're just learning how to wager, pick a horse to win, bet at the win, place, show, be conservative, ease into all this. If you throw money at wagering, you're going to lose. Remember, it's pari-mutuel wagering because when they create these odds, they're done according to how much money's in the tote pools.
That's right.
And so they're going to get their return, and you really want to probably be conservative and play wise. And like I said, don't overspend at all. If you're just going for a nice day, bet $2 across, maybe $5 across. If you've got it, bet $20 across. But don't double fisted a lot unless you really got throwaway money and you really want to play and get too aggressive. But go up to the top.
Yep.
So across the line, these are the wagers that you can choose from. So if you go to the number 3, daily double, exacta, trifecta, superfecta, pick 3, super high or super high 5. These are all pretty fancy wagers, and daily double can be fun. It used to be that the daily double was the first and the second race, and it encouraged people to come early. And if you could pick the winner of the first and the second race, that was hitting the daily double.
Yeah.
Exacta bets. So exacta bets are you're trying to pick the first and second place finishers. So a lot of people box an exacta bet.
Right. But
Okay.
that's given that's throwing away money though, right?
Well, and that's what I'd say. Remember, if you box it, you're automatically losing one of those wagers. And tracks love it when you box a bet
Yeah.
because that's just gift money to them.
Sure.
Because they know you're going to lose one of the two. Now, you might win the other wager, but after you do the math, you're better off deciding instead of boxing it, just bet it.
A straight exacta.
Straight exacta.
Or a straight trifecta.
Exactly. Pick, make a decision, make a firm decision, and live or die by the decision. Now, you might get your second choice might beat your first choice on occasion, but you're not giving them a ticket. And tracks probably wouldn't want me to say all this, but that's how they make money is that they want you to box races. Trifecta the same, make a decision. Superfecta the same. Is a really hard thing to do. Picking 3 races, the third, fourth, and fifth. You take some patience. You got to handicap 3 different races at the same time before you play that wager. You almost have to do it the night before. Super high 5, honestly, I've never played a super high 5.
Gotcha.
Being forthright about my background, my father was a really bad gambler. He gambled a lot. I watched it. For me as a young kid, I watched him bet and lose and and pout.
Sure.
And at some point in time in my life, I said, I don't think I'm going to wager. I'm not much of a, like going to Vegas or anything like that. I like horses, and I like developing horses. And
right.
if I win a race, that's my wager. Actually, I'll buy a horse as a wager as opposed to bet on a horse as a wager. But that's just me. But a lot of this certainly keeps the game going, and we want people to play, but we also want them to play within reason so that they come back and enjoy the day. And really, as a fan, go look at the horses. Go see the horses. This isn't all about numbers and speed figures, and it's not about all gambling. It's about the beauty of the thoroughbred and really learning on who the sire is and the broodmare sire is and how they move and how they're made. That's the amazing part of thoroughbred racing. It's not the gambling. Gambling can be fun and exciting, and you get a group of friends and bet that way. That's fine, and it makes for a good day, but it's not something that you want to do every day. Certainly, if you have responsibilities, whether it's wife, children, family, mortgages, don't bet the mortgage.
Kenny, this has been fascinating, and I'm like super excited to go put some money down at the track now. I actually know what this looks like and means now. I can look at this. You did a great job explaining this, because now I can actually make sense of what these forms look like. I've never been able to in the past because nobody's really walked me through it, and I've never really taken the time to learn. But this is awesome. Thank you so much for doing that.
Well, one other thing I'm going to pop out of here before we finish up this. The win percentages are that people like percentages, and they think those analytics are a big deal. That's not a huge deal for me. The stats on the sire stats and the mud stats and things like that, the dam stats, that can be irrelevant. What is something people need to learn to look at is fractional times. Like over here on the left side of the one horse, you've got a mile, the first quarter in 23, the second quarter in 46. The third quarter in 111, finished in 137. Those are things that over time you look at, but they're hard to analyze because different tracks have different surfaces,
different speeds,
and then you have different distances. So you need consistent distances to analyze those, and that's never black and white, or typically isn't.
Okay, this is awesome, man. Thank you so much.
All right.
That's a wrap for this episode of Horses Now. Thank you for tuning in and right along with us. As we talked about earlier, please download that Horses Now app. I think you can get a lot of value out of it. And thank you for joining us for the conversation. Hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.
See you at the races. Check the PPs out in the Horses Now app. We have a past performances section in there that when you click on it, you get the Equibase PPs. It costs a few dollars, but you can get them right there on your phone. You save them.